Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Infernus, and welcome back to another comic book review. And please switch. Okay, thank you. Sorry, StreamYard was not cooperating. So, admittedly, there were a couple entries on my on my MCU ranking that I did last summer that definitely needed more research done. One of them was Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which I did rectify. The other big one that I can think of was Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and I just remembered another big one, The Incredible Hulk. I'll get to that one at some point. But yes, Shang-Chi. I didn't really have a lot to say about this movie back then, so I decided that it would be a good idea to rewatch it, especially because if the rumors are true, the character of Shang-Chi will be very important going forward. And I am so glad I rewatched this movie because it's great. So, what's great about it? Well, for starters, I think it goes without saying that the best thing the movie has is its villain. Wen Wu, the true Mandarin. No, it's not Trevor Slattery, it's not Aldrich Killian, it's this guy. Let me let you in on a little something about me. My favorite, if you've noticed, some of my favorite MCU villains, which I don't even know why I entered that with if you've noticed, because I've read this, some of my favorite MCU villains all share one thing in common. They have a very understandable motive, whether that be the Vulture, or Baron Zemo, or Thanos, Gore the God Butcher, Scarlet Witch, even some of the characters who are out for, who are out for Tony Stark. Most of them are really good villains, and Wen Wu is no exception. His motivation here is is out of grief. It's a desire to get his wife back because he believes that it's possible, even though he's well, kind of delusional at this point in time. But the thing is, they actually go into the backstory of the family of Shang-Chi's family, and you see the kind of bond they have. You see, all the good times, the all the happiness, the joy, and we also get to see how all of that was taken away from them. How how Wen Wu's past led to a really tragic. It basically came to bite his whole family in the ass and took away the one thing that was keeping the family together, which was his wife and the mother of Shang-Chi and Xialing. And because they elaborated so hard in the backstory, it allows you to sympathize with this character, and you understand why he wants to get her back so badly. We also know that he's absolutely nuts, but we do get it. Then again, that's a common trait with these broken villains who want to achieve their goal so bad. We know they're crazy, but we get it. And thinking about it now, you could probably also throw Namor into that pile of understandable villains. It's not just Wen Wu who's great though. I also found myself really liking Shang-Chi again, to the point where he ended up kicking Miss Marvel out of my top 10 favorite MCU characters, but that's a different video altogether that I don't know when I'll make, but I probably will eventually. What's interesting about him is that we already know going in that he's the child of the villain, but what we don't realize is that he's actually running from his past. Well, we don't realize this until much later in the movie, a good ways into the first half, that he was actually trained by his father to be a part of the reborn Ten Rings and was sent on a mission that he actually followed through on. He actually followed through on killing the target, but he ended up abandoning the rings after, I believe it was, I don't know, he really wasn't proud of that action. So he's someone who is running from his past and has to come to terms with who he is by the end, and basically take up the actual 10 rings that the organization was based on. Another thing that I really liked here, going back to Shang-Chi, was actually his relationship with Katie, his best friend. This was actually my mom's favorite thing about the movie, and I can see why. This is the kind of friendship I'd want to have, just the kind of thing where, of course, you have the straight man. Such a person is just so much fun to hang out with that go a little bit easy on them. And in general, Katie is just a fun character. Aquafina plays her incredibly well, and her and Simu Liu have really good chemistry. And at the same time, the action. This is you know unabashedly a martial arts movie, and this is some really good choreographed martial arts. Like, it's fun to watch, it's intense. Probably my favorite action scene was the one on the bus. The bus action scene is definitely my favorite in the movie. So, with all that good stuff I have to say about it, all these fun characters and great action, is there anything that I didn't like about the movie, or at least any flaws that carried over from what I originally thought about it? Honestly, there is one thing, and that is the structure of the story. It is pretty oddly structured, and it literally took me until an hour ago to think of how I worded this. I finally found a way to put this. This feels like a two-part movie that got squished into one part. The first half, before they enter the place where the Dweller in Darkness is, that feels like Shang-Chi in The Legend of the Ten Rings. The second half of the movie feels like Shang-Chi and the Dweller in Darkness. That that feels like that would be my hypothetical title for the movie that ended up becoming the second half of this film. This either feels like two separate movies that got squished into one, or a 3-hour movie that got one half of it chopped off. Because the interesting thing is that certain parts are in clusters. Certain type of scenes are in clusters throughout the movie. You get three action scenes really close to each other. You get exposition and dialogue really close to each other, flashbacks. It kind of feels like they had an idea for where to put certain types of scenes, and there wasn't really a lot of space. Well, it wasn't really mixed well. It's like you take one movie, you take out the good bits of that movie, you take out the good bits of another movie that were meant to be a sequel to that first movie, and you clump it all together into one movie. Now, like I said, this isn't a big issue. This does best parts of those two movies, but it still feels like two movies. That probably isn't as well worded as I was hoping it would be, but that's the best way I could think of to word it. Now, do I still have a problem with Trevor? After watching, I forget if it was Hail to the King or All Hail the King, it was the one shot with Trevor. After watching that, honestly, no, because that did provide some context as to why he was at the Ten Rings compound. Because in that, I probably should have made a slide with the poster for that one shot. But basically, what the deal was with that one shot was that it was about a filmmaker who wanted to interview Trevor for a documentary, but it turns out that the filmmaker is actually a member of the Ten Rings who actually was going to capture Trevor to take him to the Mandarin, like the real Mandarin, the guy that Trevor was pretending to be. So, with that added context, I actually don't mind Trevor being here, and quite honestly, I wouldn't mind having a Morris. Like, I got a Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings Lego set just because it had Morris in it. I'm not kidding, he was the big reason. And also for other reasons, but just the fact that I have a Lego Morris now, it just makes me happy. So, yeah, this movie was a lot better than I originally gave it credit for. I did it really dirty, and I'm just realizing now in this poster, you can see Abomination down there. So, I believe when I originally put in that ranking, it was at like a 3 out of 5. Yeah, bump that up by one whole point. This is now a 4.5 out of 5. This is definitely one of Phase 4's. I almost said 5, but no, we just entered that. This is definitely one of Phase 4's best projects. I don't know if it's top 3, but it's definitely top 5. So if you haven't watched it in a while, definitely give it a rewatch. It is certainly one of the better projects put out by the most recent phase. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for that review that took way too long to make. Thanks, StreamYard, for your technical issues. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, you know what to do. I'm not going to bore you with all that generic stuff. Take care. Godspeed.